Good evening. It is I, Ron Carr. It is my pleasure to be with you in this evening. It is a pleasure. The little one and the prayer, opening prayer, all mention the gratitude for the changing of the seasons. And it is important to understand and know and to expect that things always change. Nothing remains the same. Try to think of anything that has happened in your life that has been constant in any way and always there. This is not the way it is. It is that there is always change. There is growth. There is movement. There is understanding which comes. And there are new things to learn and to grow and to understand. You have taken change for granted. As much as you have often wished that things are perfect and you wish that they would always remain the same. You knew that from time to time that changes had to be made. Perhaps you were young and you fell in love and you found what you thought was your perfect mate. And as you continue to live together, you discover the flaws that are present within that perfect mate and the things that are annoying and the things that are wonderful all at the same time. And as your knowledge of that special person in your life grows, there is a change in your relationship. Sometimes that love, that affection, that support that may be there for you with others continues to grow. And it is a wonderful relationship that continues to improve. Other times, as you find out more about one another, you may find things that you don't find acceptable in the other person. And then your relationship may grow different or more distant. You may be needing to go to counseling to understand, to revise your expectations, and maybe your relationship grows better again. It just does not stay the same. You have children, you have new stresses, you have, or a lack of children in some cases. The children never show up, and that causes its stresses. Life is always changing. And as much as you want to embrace change, if it is for your idea of the better, it is often difficult, even when it is good. Your social scientists have evaluated some of these things and have said even things like taking a vacation is extremely stressful. It is not always the delightful, relaxing thing that you wish to have come. Why is that? Well, there are unexpected things that can happen on vacations. You are in a new situation. You may not know exactly what you are doing if you have never been to that location. You may be with other people. You may not understand your expectations. There are many things that might make you feel less happy or feel stressed about. And simply getting ready to go on vacation can be very a stressful event. And then you come home and you have to get back into life. And this causes stress. Change causes stress. It is often difficult for you to deal with the changes that happen in your life, but you have no other choice. As you were a child, you acted as a child and you began to grow. You had to learn to accept more responsibility for yourself. You had to begin to take care of yourself. You were expected to succeed in school and to learn things. And some of you came from situations in which there was great difficulties in your home, where the background was very difficult for you to survive and be successful in, because there may have been fighting between your parents or other siblings or other people in the family. So everything was difficult, and you had to learn to adapt, to deal with these situations. Now, how do you deal with your stress in your life? It is really up to you. You can, through your perceptions, fight changes in your life and make yourself very unhappy over the thoughts that you have concerning these changes. If you are willing to accept the changes fairly easily, then you will find that were more happy and you were less stressed. If you placed a lot of expectations upon yourself, you expected yourself perhaps to do extremely well in school. You wanted to be a straight A student, and you certainly stressed over your studies. You stressed over every test. You stressed over every paper, wanting it to be perfect. And then there were others who did not care particularly. And so they did not stress over those things, but they may have had stressful relationships at home, or they may have worried more about how well they were getting along with their friends and what was expected of them. Boyfriends, girlfriends, all these things as you're growing up are sources of stress for yourself. And I have used the term expectations on yourself and expectations on others. That often causes you stress. For when you expect something of someone else, they are unlikely to give you what you desire. They have their own concerns, their own stresses, and they are living in a different world than yourself. For each one of you lives in your own world. And in that world, you set up the rules of how people should act, how you should act. These are expectations. And since each one of you, each one of us, when we are in the physical, have our own world, the laws of those worlds are not the same, and they do not apply to anyone else's world. It is to you alone. And when you have expectations in your world, expectations of behaviors for others, and also expectations of behavior for yourself, you bring stress into your life. If you can learn to accept whatever it is that comes from others, to look at what you desire, what you expect, as merely a preference in your life. This is what I would wish would happen in this situation. This is what I would prefer. You leave yourself open to the behaviors of others. And so when they do not perform as you would like or as you would prefer, you are not as disappointed. You are not having to reconfigure whatever it is you intended to do or think, because you have not predetermined the way a situation will go. You will be free to move, to change decisions, to try to always find the best solution for yourself in any situation, so that when it is a happy one, you can embrace the moment and the happiness of that moment. If it is unhappy, you can be sorrowful. You can seek out from others the comfort that you need. If you are in a situation which you cannot manage by yourself, you then can also seek out help from others by requesting it, not expecting it, but requesting it from others until you find the help that you need in any situation. You do not have to do everything alone. If you do not have expectations on others, you are flexible. And the more flexible you are, the more options you give yourself in order to respond to any situation. And so I ask you to think about what I'm speaking in this evening, to think about what kind of expectations you have placed on others that may have caused you disappointments in the past, that may have made you very unhappy because people did not respond as you wished them to respond. or you became unhappy because you were unable to perform the way you wanted to perform. And so you were disappointing to yourself. And you can let go of the anxiety of performance expectations on yourself, for you know that you will always do the best that you can, because that is what everyone does. They always make the best decisions that they can with the information they have at the moment, with their own frame of mind at the moment. They can only do that, do the best that they can. And you can only expect that of yourself, for that is all you can do. You make the best decisions possible. If those decisions are not the best, don't give you the best solutions, why then you can feel disappointed, but you can seek to make changes, to do things differently, knowing that you are the person in control in the end, for it is what you determine that is best for you, that makes you happy. That is what you are seeking to create in your life. And so expect change, but don't expect others to be as you would have them be, to act as you would have them act. And situations are then flexible and workable, and you eliminate a lot of stress in your life. And I hope you have found these simple suggestions helpful to yourself and may be able to use them in the future. Are there any questions on what I have spoken about in this day or in this evening? And if there are no questions about the topic I have chosen, I will accept questions on whatever it is you would wish to speak about.
I do appreciate you saying that we should look for help when we're having problems, because that's something that I've not done too much. I always depended on myself and said, well, I'm stuck with it. I'll have to do something. So
that is an excellent attitude, but you are still allowed to, in helping yourself and figuring it out, you are still allowed to seek the help of others.
yeah, that's but the last thing I always think of doing. But it probably would have been simpler in a lot of cases if I just asked for help to begin with. But live and learn. Okay, I was wondering, according to the Bible, and if it's right, we started out living in a paradise here. So if that existed, was there a circle of life happening where things living and dying and growing again and so forth?
In the Garden of Eden, as it was told about in the Bible. Yes, well, of course, there is the circle of life. It is what it is, and that is the perfection of it. You must not think of death as being, or aging, or change as being an indication that something is wrong or that it is not working correctly. That would make you very unhappy to think that. So it is important that you do not dwell upon those thoughts which make you unhappy. Now, you may say that is a very Pollyanna thing to do. Just ignore the things that make you unhappy. No, that is not what I'm saying, or you have said it yourself. When situations were not good, you said, I have to change them. And you looked to yourself for your solution, and you took actions to try to make it better. And this is true. This is what you must do. You might think the Garden of Eden is that spot. Probably, oh, who knows? I'm trying to think of an age when you might be existing in a Garden of Eden. Eden, if you are well nurtured by your parents and in a loving home, would probably be somewhere all along your childhood, from perhaps ages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about that age, 7. At age 7, um, sometimes you are considered to have matured enough to know there are differences between right and wrong. And you will have, if this is an accurate thing, and I believe it is about at the accurate time, but at some point in time, all children reach a level where they are responsible for their own behaviors. They can do things to bring about what they want to achieve. So children have been pulling temper tantrums. They know what makes their mom and pop and their dad happy, um, and what kind of behavior their parents find um, unlikable, and so they know how to manipulate. They have already learned that, and so they try through various methods to bring about what they want. That is about the end of the Garden of Eden, because now children are taking responsibility for themselves. So if you look at the Garden of Eden as an allegory, there was a time of living where everything was fine, where you were provided all your wants, you had all that you needed, but then you began to want more. You wanted to be in control, so to speak. And that is where the temptation of the serpent comes in, because the serpent tempts Eve with the possibility of knowing a lot more and being as powerful as God. And so she eats of the apple of the tree of knowledge, which gives her the knowledge of good and evil. In other words, she discovers that there's grades of good. And from that point on, she is plagued by desires, other desires, which are not possibly helpful to herself. And this is the story. It is an allegory for growing up and leaving the world of childhood and entering the world of adulthood. It is interesting that this story has come about in this in the Bible, explaining how things are, but because they are cast out once they have that knowledge of things, other desires, in other words. This tempts them to always seek and not be happy with what they have. And as a result, it is they are making themselves unhappy. And that is what casts them out of the Garden of Eden. When you are happy with what you have, when you are happy with the circumstances of your life, whether you be rich or poor, if what you have you find as being good and you call this happiness, it is your judgment. And if you are happy, you are in the Garden of Eden. When things are not the way you want them to be, you have stepped yourself out of the Garden of Eden, because you are the creator of your own happiness or unhappiness. And you know those words well, that you are the creator of your own happiness or unhappiness through your thoughts, your words, your actions. And once you have decided you are unhappy, you are no longer in the Garden of Eden. When you are happy, then everything is the Garden of Eden, and it is only for you to recognize that you have created your own Garden of Eden in your mind. I do not know if that is helpful.
Oh, big time. I mean, that's big time. I mean, that's totally not what I was taught, and way off, but makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Yes. Well, people looked at the story and they have interpreted it in various ways, but it is merely an allegory for growing up and becoming in control of your life. And you cast yourself out of the Garden of Eden when you decide you are unhappy and you want things to be different. Now, this can be a temporary thing, can it not? You can say, I am unhappy in this relationship, and there is no reason for you to stay in the relationship. And so you leave the relationship, leaving yourself open for change and perhaps finding a better relationship. So your actions then can help you to make your life better by making those determinations. It is simply to understand that you have the power to make yourself happy, and through your own decision or your own actions. And ultimately, you are totally responsible for those things. And that's what creates the life that you live in every day. You are the creator. And it is a wonderful, empowered knowledge to know that you are creating your own happiness. Also, that you are creating your own unhappiness. Because if you are creating unhappiness, you can take action to change it and make yourself happy. You can change your perceptions, you can change your thoughts, you can change your expectations, or you can take different actions. Are there other questions or further questions on this subject?
Yes. I listen to different teachers and read different material on the crux of what you were talking about, the desires themselves. Aside from the happiness or unhappiness that it may bring, us taking responsibility for being happy. Abraham Hicks teaches desires are what fuels the whole universe and creates life with a capital L, and that life itself will elicit desires and also dissatisfaction with them over time, so that new desires will be born. They also focus on being happy in the process, not focusing on manifestations, not being unhappy when what you want has not manifested yet. There are some traditional Christian teachers that, such as from Houston, Texas, Joel Osteen teaches that God actually puts desires in our hearts and we're meant to fulfill our desires. Whereas Buddhism teaches to let go your grasping on the world and not have desires. And the Course in Miracles seems to, I'm trying to really get the bigger picture as to whether desires are good or not, but it does have a lesson that says there is nothing I need to offer me in the world. So aside from happiness or unhappiness, understanding that we have the power to be happy or unhappy. What about desire itself? Is it a good thing? Is it true that it fuels all of the universe, or is it better to disengage and let go the grasping on the world?
Well, all of those things can bring about happiness. Every one of them, as they have been taught by various people, because that is their perceptions on how to achieve happiness. There are teachings who say if you have a desire that needs to be fulfilled, that, as you have said, that desire is within you because it is God's desire for you. It is important to realize exactly your relationship with God. And it is your relationship with God, which is the understanding of who you truly are, that brings about all these different viewpoints and all these different perceptions. As you are aware, in the beginning, there was the void, right? There was only one. And that one, that power, that one intelligence, that one source of power, that one source of life was what we have termed God. And you can choose to name him anything you wish. You can call him Allah or Brahman or Brahma. It does not matter how you wish to think of it, what name you will apply. It is in the beginning, there was only the one. And that one created everything that is. It brought each one of us into form. He brought those who are in spirit, so he created life. And he created all the animals, and he created everything that is. And as there was nothing else at that point in time except the one, everything that has been created must be made out of the same substance as the one. And we always know that the creator, by creating, invests part of himself in his creation, in everything that he does. Similarly, that which he has created always remains part of himself. It's in his mind, his idea. If you have ever created anything, you can think on it and recall it and take pleasure in it, that this was your creation. And so that which has been created always remains part of the creator, and the creator is always part of that which he creates. Now, if you take that to a logical conclusion about yourself, you are God's creation. God loves his creation. God wants his creation to be whatever he sees that to be. And he would want the best for his creation. So your desires can be seen as being God's desires. And so you really have to realize and come to know your oneness with your creator. It always exists and always is part of your life. When you can come to know yourself in the fullness of yourself, meaning you understand that you are this creation of God, and as such, you imbue God's ideas, God's ideals. There was something there that he thought would be contributing to his creation. Now, we can think of God as individually creating each of you, or you can think of it back to the evolution, that he set everything in motion. And that at some point in time, there was going to be someone like you, exactly like you, with your own unique talents, your own unique abilities, your own unique thoughts. And hopefully they would add to this creation in a good way, bringing out the best. So it is not a question of whether desire is good or desire is bad. It's just part of the process. And if you are that manifestation of God in all ways in your own life, and you are a creator in your own life, in your own way, for you do create the life that you live, and you do create the world that is around you through your perceptions and the way you look at things and the way you act and the way you think, you create your world. And as such, you are a creator at every moment in your own life. And as I have said, it does not matter whether you desire things. Desire can be good, because by desiring, you take actions to manifest and bring about something into your life. You create a good for yourself. If it is a desire, you create something good out of it. It's good for you. And as such, you are creating good. So if you honor the creator that you are, and you honor that part of you, which is God, which is every part of you. There is no part of you that is separate from God at any point in time. You have all the virtues of God living within you. You have truth, and you have fulfillment, and you have joy, and you have happiness, and you have faith. All these things are there within you to reach and to manifest and to use for yourself. And as such, you are God creating in every day. Everyone is God creating in every day. And it all comes out to be the creation that you see all around you. And your interpretation of that creation is the one that matters most in this world. Everybody else will see things slightly differently than you and may evaluate things differently than you. But if you are happy with your world, that is all that matters. So it is good that you have studied about desire and many different ways to looking at things. And now you can choose from what you have heard and understood, the ones that make you feel the most empowered, and the ones which allow you to create the best life possible for yourself. Because that is, I guess, metaphysics. That is how things work on an energy level and on an emotional level. And these things manifest on a physical level in your reality. So there is no one that is right, because they are all right. It is simply whether you are looking at the front, the side, or the back of something, the right side or the left side. It is just how you are viewing it. So they are all right. And choose what makes you most comfortable in creating the world that you wish to live in. Hope that's helpful to think about anyway. Are there further questions or additional questions on the same subject?
I was wondering when you said desire, I'm wondering what the definition would be in a sense, because I was thinking, well, doesn't a serial killer have the desire to keep killing? And if that makes him happy, I assume. But it doesn't sound like a good desire to follow.
Yes, it certainly makes him feel powerful. The problem with being a serial killer or doing other things that are generally labeled bad by society standards is that they have consequences. And those consequences usually do not allow you to be happy. You understand, you can be found guilty of murder and you can go to prison. You can have your life taken away from you. Maybe that would be very good, because then you would maybe feel happier without having to have that power of life or death over certain people. So people who desire things that are not compatible with the well-being of others inevitably are desiring things which are not helpful for themselves. And so it is that understanding that what you put out into the world is what you get back that keeps you, if you will, on the straight and narrow and being as good as you can be. You steal the things of other people, they are going to get angry. You are certainly not going to win friends and influence people. And inevitably, something will happen to you where people will rebel and be unhappy with you. I could say, look at Governor Cuomo at the moment. He is experiencing great difficulties. Why is this coming? Cannot say, but he has certainly been enjoying doing some of these things that he has been accused of doing. We will not discuss the accuracy of these accusations, and we will not discuss the accuracy of his responses. But we have to assume that at least some of these are partially correct in his attitudes and behaviors. You certainly have seen his willingness to tell you everything, if you lived in his state, exactly how you should behave and what actions you needed to take. These may have generated resentment among a great many people. And now suddenly he is not, he is being persecuted, he thinks. He is thinking terrible things, that people are not being kind to him. Perhaps they resented some of the ways in which he behaved, but felt powerless to speak up, to object, felt that his actions were harmful to themselves. And as a result, he's reaping what he has sown, because he caused animosity among many people. And it is the truth. Whatever you put out in life is what you receive back. So if you are a loving individual, generally people love you back. If you are a hateful individual, generally people hate you. If you are unkind, people will not like you. People will keep their distance. You probably will not have friends. So your actions generate the life that you live. And the most important law to remember is that which you put out, that which you give away, is what is given back to you.
So basically, we should judge our own desires as to what the results would be if we followed through with them.
Yes, to a great deal of extent. Would this be helpful to me? Oh, well, we know that eating ice cream is very delicious and lots of fun. But if you only eat ice cream, you will be not have a very healthy diet, and very probably might become extremely obese and probably not live too long. It is much better that you eat a variety of foods to supply your body with all the proper nutrients, rather than just sugar or candy or ice cream, or for that matter, just potatoes. But if potatoes is all you have, then you have no choice. You will eat just potatoes. And they have a certain level of nutrition, so does as the other things do. But you have to do the best you can to feed your body properly.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Excuse me. May I ask a question? What I get confused about this. You know, so much of the teachings of kindness, great men, Jesus and others, are the teaching is to look for the good in others. And I suppose that's like looking for the God in others. We're all one, and so there's God in each of us. And it may not be so apparent on the surface, but to look for it, we're taught to do. But at the same time, in the Bible, it says, don't throw pearls before swine. So where does that, I mean, they seem overlapping to me, and can you make it clearer?
On the subject of throwing pearls before swine, that basically refers to not trying to change people to be different than they are.
Mhm.
You can give them your pearls of wisdom. You can tell them your understanding, but don't waste your time, and do not get too involved to the point where you lose your treasures. See, the problem, and I do not wish to demean a pig, for swine are very good animals in their own way. And it is man who has made their own judgments. But the alliteration, I think, comes because it does not matter where it came from. I will not digress. trying to change the nature of someone who is not helpful for yourself. It is better that you allow them to be as they are. Do not waste your treasure, is what they are saying when they are saying, do not throw pearls before swine. So do not waste your treasure, your time, your energy, trying to change someone into whatever you think they should be. And that is why that instruction has come forward. It is better to accept people as they are, to love them as they are, and let them be. Do not insist that they live up to your ideas. Do not try to make them think in different ways. And always, when you are in these situations, you have to do what is best for yourself. And giving away those best parts of yourself to someone perhaps who does not appreciate them. In other words, you spend your time and you try to make someone's life better by instructing them, by giving them things, does not help you. It is not the way of making your life the best that it can be. It is wasting your energy, and your energy are your pearls. Do you understand?
Yes, yes, I certainly do. It's very clear. Thank you.
So you just try to be the best that you can be.
Mhm.
And you can be kind, and you can look for the good in that person. But when there is less good than there is appalling
Mhm.
behaviors and characteristics,
Mhm.
then do not spend all your time trying to see that which is not there, or to
Mhm.
instruct someone, or to help someone. It is
Mhm.
best you put your energy where it is profitable toward yourself.
Mhm.
And you accept the person the way they are. You see, the most unloving thing you can do to anyone is to want them to be different.
Ah, yes, that's beautifully said. Yes,
And that is the way to be the most unloving.
yes.
So if you wish to love, or you have a family member that is just toxic to your relationship and your well-being, it's
Mhm.
better to just wish them love,
Mhm.
hope they are well, don't see them too much,
Mhm.
don't overtalk to them, allow them to be absent from your life, but pay them the respect perhaps that they need or they desire, because they are family members.
Yes.
And that is the best that you can do for them, is to respect them and allow them to be the way they are. And perhaps by just being the best you will inspire them to change.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true too. That's very lovely. Yes.
Yes.
Thank
It
you.
it is important to remember that we all inspire one another. And
Mhm.
you can inspire people to be better, and you can
Mhm.
inspire them to be worse.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just be the best that you can be. And then you
Mhm.
generally will be inspiring to make other people better.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there other questions?
Yes, I just have a quick one. On that same topic of something, a line derived from the Bible. The words derived from the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. I mean, they've never made sense to me. Why would anyone say to God, don't lead us into God? Why would God ever lead us into temptation?
Um, there are um, there are various translations of the prayer. And when you are looking at ancient scripts, and the Our Father prayer is very ancient, you are looking at attempts of people to translate as best they can that which the prayer is. Now, those of you who have looked into this, perhaps in the slightest amount, just to understand something more in the Bible, the old Hebrew alphabet had no vowels. So there are many words that are spelled the same. They may have been pronounced differently and would have different meanings in the context of the sentence. You can certainly look and know the difference between the word read and read, and also the color red by the context of the sentence. And so we are looking sometimes at translations that have been made as best they can by the understanding of the people who are making these translations and what they believe is trying to be expressed. And so when you are looking also at something like lead us not into temptation, I think that is probably a poetic way of saying, please help me. Help me in any way that you can. I need guide me. I need help and guidance so that I don't fall into erroneous ways or temptations, if you will, erroneous thoughts. So it's not that the literalness of that particular prayer at that particular sentence, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So they are simply asking for help and guidance at that time. And it was either the poetic expression of the translator that became accepted. And so that is what is used. The important sentence is, and deliver us from evil, meaning help us. With that, whatever we are doing in our life, help our thoughts, clarify our thoughts, and help us. Are there further questions?
Yes, I just have a comment about the Our Father. I am Portuguese, and in the Portuguese version of Our Father, it doesn't say, don't lead us into temptation. It says, help us not to fall into temptation.
You see?
Which is very interesting.
A very good difference in translation. It was translated perhaps more properly by whoever put it into Portuguese.
And it doesn't say deliver us from evil. It says, please help us to stay away from bad, anything that is bad.
Yes, very good, a better way. And there are other translations which, even if you are speaking, when they say, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. In the language of Latins, those things are debita nostra, our debts. So they are not saying our trespasses or our sins, they are saying our debts.
In Portuguese, we say it, forgive us our offenses.
Offenses.
So, yes. As we forgive those who have offended us.
So you have looked at something, a prayer, that actually predates Christianity by hundreds of years, where they have found it in older tablets, I think Babylonian type, but I am not certain. And they have found that same prayer. So it has been used and it has been reworded into many different languages over time. And as a result, it is what it is. And that is the difficulty in reading the Bible or any ancient scripture. When you do not have the connotations of the societies firmly within your own background, you will probably mistranslate things. Perhaps you have occasionally came across the wording on a guarantee or an instruction manual when from something that has been translated from Chinese or Japanese and or just any other language, and the colloquialisms are misinterpreted so that people you are all familiar, I'm sure, with the word colloquialism, that it is an expression that is not, has a meaning which is different from the normal definition of the words. And so these type of things are often local to that society. And thank you for the information on how it is written in Portuguese.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions?
I just want to follow up a little bit on what you said previously on that we can't change people, so to speak, that we should just accept them as they are. But do we not, as individuals, and at the same time as part of God, obviously, have some kind of a universal responsibility to help contribute in a positive way as much as we can for the betterment of our brothers and sisters? And I understand that by allowing people to be as they are is an act of kindness, to accept as they are. But if we feel that they are probably not making the best choice, do we not also have a responsibility to share that and to perhaps allow them to entertain a different version or a different choice so they could make a better choice? And again, when I say better choice, I'm probably referring to what I think would be a better choice, and that's probably not appropriate. But sometimes it's just so clear that someone might be making a bad choice. Don't
Yes.
we have a responsibility to bring it to their attention out
No,
of kindness and lovingness?
no, you do not have a responsibility to do that. You may seek to do that if you wish, but it is not your responsibility to make any decision for themselves. You probably should approach a situation, and these things happen a great deal with young adults who are just being responsible, just taking over the initiative to make decisions for themselves. And probably it would have been best if this is your child, that you have been giving him guidance on how to make decisions as you were giving them more responsibility to make decisions, which I think most parents do not think about to teach their children how to make a decision. They kind of assume that it's acquired by osmosis. I believe if you think to your own growing up, that your parents did not take you aside and say, there are ways to make decisions, and this is the guidelines you should use. But this case, you know of someone, you are close with this individual, intimate enough, and you would like to offer your own counsel and your opinion as simply to, can I give you some suggestions on things to think about as you make this decision? And just give the suggestions on other things that they should think about. And then they must be left to their own decision if they are adults. If they are young and you are still responsible for them, you can countermand every decision. But if they are adults by your society, then it is important that you let them make their own decisions. You can offer them the counsel and the guidance, but it is not your responsibility to do so. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. But I think by me even using the word responsibility, now I realize that's taken away from their free will.
Yes, but you can offer counseling and guidance if you wish, and then you have that type of a relationship. And just before you decide to marry this man, I want you to consider before you decide to marry this woman, or before you decide to become a sexually active adult, please recognize that when you generate a life, you are responsible for that life for another 18 years. These kinds of counsel can be of great importance. And even though you may think that you will never become pregnant or that this act will result in a child, it is probable, it is possible. And as long as it is possible, you should, and if you are not ready to take that responsibility. So you see, there are always things to be said which can be helpful to others, and you will can offer that counseling and guidance, but you are not required to do so, to step in and to act for anyone else, or to tell someone else how they should act, because you have already said it. It interferes with their free will. And perhaps there is a lesson there for them to learn that has already been set up, and for which in this life you are not aware. And so sometimes you just have to let it be and affirm that all their choices will be good ones, and they will have only good options before them. That is the most important thing for you to do. And if they have made a mistake, do not say, "I told you so." Simply say, "Well, okay. What are you going to do now?" And they will be maybe more willing to listen to your counsel and your guidance the next time. But if it is your brother, your sister, your parents, as well as your children, if it is your friend, you can always offer a little counsel, a little guidance, and do it lightly in such a way as to not saying that they must do this, or this is only what you are offering, and you respect their right to make their own decisions. Are there other questions?
Okay, I got one off the beat.
Okay.
I know you can go back and see things here and there in time, even though time doesn't exist for you. But back in the 1940s, could you tell me if beings from another world actually crash landed on the Earth in 1940? Or 1940s, it wasn't 1940 itself.
Yes,
It was,
in the desert.
yes.
I'm not going to answer that question
Oh, come on.
because it is not an important question as to living your life well. It does not, and it does not influence things. And it is one of those mysteries that for me to find and to really assess. Certainly there could have been things, but I am not going to look it up.
Oh, bummer. You said ask anything.
Yes, you can ask anything. And in general,
doesn't mean
I
you're
will
gonna
answer
answer,
your
right?
question, but some of these questions, they're where they are not important.
So I have a follow-up to that.
Yes.
Are we being visited now?
There are people who feel they make contact with beings from a different universe. I am not, they are not physically, things are not physically happening at the moment or for a time. Not that there has not been occasional contact, but it certainly has not brought about dramatic changes in your society. There are people who believe themselves to be in contact with aliens from different stars, different solar systems, so to speak, a star system, different planets around different star systems. Whether they are in true communication with aliens from another planet, or whether they are merely in communication with other spirits, I cannot speak. I cannot judge those words that they have. If what they are receiving is uplifting and helpful, it is with any piece of information to make your judgment. If what you are receiving is uplifting and helpful to yourself and makes your life better, embrace it. It does not matter where it comes from, whether it comes from spirit, whether it comes from angels, whether it comes through psychic communication. It does not matter if it's helpful. It is coming from somewhere else. It may be coming from within yourself. For your ability to know everything that is, because you are part of God, that ability is endless. You can come to know whatever it is you need to know simply by desiring to know it and understand it. You will come to that knowledge. You will come to that ability. If you desire it and you want it, it comes to you. That is because you are God. You are the God of your own world. You are connected to the God, the one. In the beginning, there was the one. There was only the one. And you are connected directly to God. So knowing that is who you are, have confidence in your ability to understand that which you need to understand, and to learn that which you need to learn, to solve the problems that you need to solve. Have confidence in yourself and look to yourself and your own guidance for that which is best for yourself. For you are the only one who has the answer to that question. And I think it is time for me to say goodnight. On that note, I give you all my blessings. And I wish you a
Thank you.
wonderful week. Good night.
Thank you.
I am back. Okay, well, I hope you have enjoyed the evening. We'll be back again next week. And so I hope everybody is well and happy. I think the medium wants to say something when she comes out of trance. So please stick around for just a couple more minutes, but I'm going to say goodnight. Remember, I love you all. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there was something.